In 2019, James Harden averaged 36 points per game. Not for a week, not for a month, for an entire season. The highest scoring average not recorded by Michael Jordan or Wilt Chamberlain in nearly half of a century. He scored 30 points in 32 consecutive games. He scored 57, 58, 61 twice, and somehow none of that feels like the first thing people remember about James Harden. Instead, when Harden's name comes up, we always talk about the playoff losses, the missed opportunities, foul baiting, and a lot of the negative stats that follow James Harden's career. Somewhere along the way, one of the greatest offensive players we have ever seen in the history of a sport has become one of its most criticized superstars. And honestly, that's a shame, because one day when James Harden is done playing, fans are going to look back at the numbers and wonder how we ever took someone like this for granted. This isn't a story of a player who failed. It's the story of a player whose greatness became so normal that people stopped noticing it. When people talk about James Harden today, it's very easy to forget how unlikely all of this was, because James Harden wasn't supposed to become this. Coming out of Arizona State, scouts liked him, but nobody was predicting one of the greatest offensive careers in NBA history. Then he landed in Oklahoma City around Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. 3 future MVPs on one roster. But even then, Harden was different. He wasn't the freak athlete that Westbrook was. He wasn't the effortless scorer that KD was. But he understood the game, understood angles, manipulated defenses, and played at his own pace. And by 2012, he had become the 6th man of the year. The Thunder reached the finals, and the future for that team looked limitless. Then OKC made one of the most important decisions in modern NBA history. The Thunder traded James Harden over $4.5 million. And at that time, many viewed it as just a financial decision. Years later, it looked like something completely different. A mistake. Because Houston wasn't just getting a 6th man of the year and a career off the bench guy. They were getting a superstar. The moment Harden arrived in Houston, everything changed. His scoring exploded from 16 points to 26 a game. His assists went from 4 a game to 6 a game, and his usage rate skyrocketed. And suddenly, the league realized something. This whole time, James Harden had been hiding in plain sight, and the Rockets handed him the keys, and he immediately became one of the most productive offensive players in basketball. But what happened next was even more impressive, because Harden didn't just improve. He changed the landscape of offense for basketball entirely, all by himself. By the late 2010s, the NBA was changing. Teams were letting go of mid-range shots, analytics were taking over, and three-pointers became king. And nobody embraced this new era better than James Harden. Obviously, besides Steph Curry, who is the reason this era became a thing. But this isn't about him. The game of basketball turned into a math equation. Layups, three-pointers, free throw, nothing else. No wasted possessions, no unnecessary shots. And the result of that was one of the most unstoppable offensive peaks basketball has ever seen. Defenders knew the step back was about to happen, but they couldn't stop it. You couldn't double team because they were in a 5-out. Switching didn't work. They went small ball. Couldn't trap them. Again, they're in a 5-out. For several years, guarding James Harden was impossible, and the numbers proved that as well. This is where James Harden's story starts to become ridiculous. Through those 3 years, James Harden averaged a combined 34 points a game, 8 assists, and 6 rebounds a game for a 3-year span. Not for a month, not for a week, for multiple years in a row. In 2018, he averaged 30.4 points per game and won MVP. In 2019, he upped that to 36 points a game. 36, the highest average since Michael Jordan. At one point, he scored 30 points for 32 consecutive games, the second longest streak in NBA history, only behind Wilt Chamberlain. Think about that for a second. Not Kobe, not LeBron, not Durant, only Wilt. Yet fans somehow became numb to it. Because when greatness happens every single night, eventually we stop being shocked. And that's exactly what happened with Harden. The strange thing about Harden's career is that people didn't just criticize him. They disliked how he played, the foul drawing, the free throws, The isolations, the step backs, many fans hated watching it. And over time, something strange happened. The conversation stopped being about how effective he was and started being about the aesthetics of how it looked. People stopped asking, how good is Harden? They started asking, do I enjoy watching this? Those are two completely different questions. And because some fans disliked how he played, they often overlooked how dominant he actually was. The 2018 season is the season that defines Harden's legacy. Houston wins 65 games, Harden gets league MVP, and the Rockets have the best record in the league. And perhaps most importantly, the Rockets looked like the only team that could actually compete with Golden State. The only team that looked like that could possibly beat them. Let's not forget the context of that time and what was going on. The Warriors weren't just another great team. They had Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and that is often considered the greatest team of all time. And the Rockets had them on the ropes. They were up 3-2 on the Warriors, one win away from the NBA Finals, and one win from probably winning a championship. But then, Chris Paul gets hurt in Game 5, and everything changed for that series. If you ask an NBA fan about James Harden, eventually they're going to get to that series and his overall playoff success. The 27 missed threes, the collapse, the disappointment, and to be honest, that's fair. Championships and playoff success do matter. But here's where we get lost in all of that. That Rockets team was genuinely the only team to push Golden State to that point in that era, led by James Harden. And if Chris Paul doesn't get hurt, they probably win that in 6. The criticism of that series was larger than the achievement of being up that much. And now people only remember the loss. They forgot how close James Harden was to beating a dynasty. And like I said, if Chris Paul does not get hurt, we are talking about his career, his playoff success entirely differently than what we do today. James Harden for the next 2 seasons averages 36 a game and 34 a game, but is unable to have another deep playoff run like he did in 2018. For those 2 seasons, he did get bounced in the second round and did not have some of his greatest performances, but in those series, he also did have some great performances that we just overlook. In 2019, Harden also had the Warriors tied 2-2, but then lost the next 2 games. Harden now, ever since leaving Houston, has transitioned to being a point guard, and on top of all the scoring he's accomplished, he's also won 2 assist titles throughout his career as well. We've never seen an elite scorer transition to being a point and being one of the best at that in the league as well. And I think that goes to show just how diverse and how he is able to adapt to different situations, different scenarios, and be able to thrive in those situations. Because we have a guy who once averaged 36 and 34 a game, a guy who was consistently scoring 40, 50, hit 60-point triple-double before, who then becomes less of a scorer, but bumps his assists up to 10 assists a game for a few seasons and becomes a consistent 20 and 10 guy. And we just completely overlook all of that. I think James Harden is a player who in 20 years, we will actually see how ridiculous some of the things that he was able to do and how much we just did not appreciate his game. There are some players who get a lot of love while they're playing and then silence whenever they're done. There are some players who get love while they're playing and after. And then we have some players who don't get appreciated while they're playing, but then looking back, we see just how great they actually were, and we stop focusing on every single blemish of their career. I don't believe basketball is just strictly about numbers and analytics and what I just see on a piece of paper. Because I do remember some of the bad games, the bad moments, some of the flops and turnovers that he's had in big games and the amount of turnovers. I'm not here to ignore any of that information, but I also can't ignore the things that he has accomplished, and some of those things we may not see for a very long time. And for the analytics and stats guys who do just look at a piece of paper, his resume looks a lot less disappointing than people talk about it. He is one of the greatest offensive players we have ever seen, but yet we dog him like he is one of the biggest letdowns the NBA has ever seen. And that's simply just not true and not fair. Maybe James Harden does win a championship. Maybe he doesn't. But whether that ring comes now or never shouldn't determine how we look at everything else that he's done. Because basketball is bigger than just winning a ring and these narratives that are brought up, the debates, the criticism, but we are left with some undeniable facts about James Harden. For nearly a decade, Harden was one of the most unstoppable players we have ever seen in the history of this sport. And someday when he's not playing anymore, we're going to realize we should have appreciated it a lot more. That's going to wrap up today's video. If you guys have any thoughts, comments, concerns, feedback, or just want to debate, let me know down in the comments. I appreciate you guys for watching this far if you have, and I will catch you in the next one.